Meeting to order, if you'd rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 1 is the consent agenda. We have a claims number of $1,037,264.25. B, minutes to approve. Special meetings, March 31st, 2020, April 3, 2020, April 10, 2020, and regular meeting, April 7, 2020. C, set public hearing date for May 5, 2020 at 9:40 a.m. regarding a rezoning change to Chapter 47 as submitted by the Warren County Zoning Administrator. D, approve job reclassification for Michael Van Patten from Motor Grader 2 to Assistant Road Superintendent, Secondary Roads Department, effective April 6, 2020. E, approve salary increase for Andrew Butler, EOI Secondary Roads Department, effective April 28, 2020.
I would move the consent agenda. This is Doug.
Second, and is there a reason why we didn't approve the April 14th? Are those minutes not ready?
Correct. Those
Okay,
are
thank
not
you.
ready yet.
Sorry, I guess I could have asked if there was any agenda items, corrections, and that was one that the auditor mentioned is not quite ready yet, so I pulled it.
Okay, that's okay.
Perfect. Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Tracy?
Scholl,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook,
Aye. Action item number 2, consider variance application from Mr. and Mrs. Nagar with possible action.
So this is the first variance application that was submitted on the agenda tonight. I'll just run through it briefly. There's no spot on that frontage that actually meets their site distance requirement. The safest spot that we found, though, is directly across from an existing address residential entrance. So if it was approved, we would have to put up warning signs on each end for this particular case. We have approved similar ones here in the recent past where there was an existing residential entrance across the street, and we were able to basically put the word driveways plural and call it driveways on each side, so they know there's more than one on the top of the hill. But with that, I can see, I don't know if they might be on the line or not, or
Annie, are you Anastasia?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, it looks like the property
Okay,
owners are on the line.
did you guys want to add anything to what I said, or could you hear that okay?
I didn't hear the very last sentence.
Okay, so this is the only spot on the frontage that meets that there's no spot on the frontage that meets required site distance, sorry. The safest spot we found is directly across from the other residential entrance, across from your frontage there. So if the board were to approve this, we would place the yellow warning signs on each end to cover the existing residential driveway, and then if yours is approved, your driveway directly across from that.
Pretty amenable to anything, just we're looking for the safest spot, trying to keep in mind things like the fiber optic and the water and the pole that's there. Just a minute, buddy. Short of that, anywhere is fine. We're happy anywhere. We appreciate your time also.
Thank you.
Excellent. And so it's your recommendation, David, that you are okay with putting the driveway across from the existing residential property?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay.
With that.
Do we have a motion?
This is Doug. I would move that we have an entrance variance, have to approve the entrance application for the Nigers with possible, yeah.
And this is Aaron, I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none, Tracy?
McIntyre,
Aye.
Scholl, Scholl, DeCook.
Aye.
Supervisor Shaw.
I never got a chance to, this is Doug, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Before we get to number 3, I did want to draw the board's attention. I did omit on accident our fringes in the amount of $111.23, and I should have combined that with the claims. But we have fringes for $111.23, and we do vote on that, don't we?
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Thank you.
Second,
Perfect. Tracy?
Scholl,
aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Okay. Back to number 3. Looks like we have another variance application, this time from Robert and Elizabeth Fries with possible action.
This particular one, where they've requested the entrance to be, excuse me, has 520 feet to the west on County Highway G24. We like to see 600 feet. The only place that might work would be, there's an existing barn there to the east, but that would not, I guess, complement how they want to split the parcels out. So they are looking for using that existing field entrance that's already there and converting it to an address. So there is a farm entrance already there at the 520 feet. So I guess our options are to approve the variance or see if there's a way to share the driveway to the east, but that may be sort of a hardship for them based on how they want to parcel the land. And similar to the other one, we have approved other variances like this with about 80 feet of site distance that's lacking. So as a recommendation from our department, kind of on the fence about this one, but again, we have approved similar ones and we could cover it with a warning type sign. And I'd ask if,
They are on the line.
yes, okay.
Yep, I believe the freezes are on the line.
Yep,
And were you able to hear that okay? I tried to
Yeah.
explain that as best I could, but
yeah.
do you guys have any further comments or questions on that information?
Well, it's the two driveways there are just the driveways that have been there the whole time, and they circled the old house. And when we had hogs over there, contract fed hogs, I mean, it's the same driveway we used the semis in and out and all the farm equipment. So it just circles the house. We're never going to sell that house off. So at some point, we'll be either using the whole either driveway at some point. We're renting the house right now, so it just makes it easier if we can use the west.
Good.
All right.
David, Doug, so what we would be approving is the west entrance?
Yeah, the west entrance at 520 feet of site distance, which is 80 feet short of the 600 feet. It jumps to 600 feet on the paved roads.
That's what the freezers wanted, was the 520?
Yes, the 520 feet, which is, off the top of my head, would be maybe a 45 or 50 mile per hour design speed.
What does it take to get a warning sign? I mean, can we get like a warning sign there?
If the board approves this location, we would put stakes up and set warning signs up likely. But it's all case by case basis, and I kind of discussed it over with staff to kind of determine what would be the most effective sign to draw attention to drivers, but they aren't enforceable like the white regulatory signs, so you still got to be cautious.
Right.
I would move the entrance variance application for Robert and Elizabeth Freeze.
And I'll second that. Any discussion? See none. Tracy?
Schultz,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, David. I think that's it. All right. Item number 4. Consider change order with Motorola Solution Inc. on 911 communications project with possible action.
So normally Doug McCaslin, our Warren County 911 director, would be here to speak to this, but he is at another meeting tonight over in Norwalk and has asked if I would go ahead and talk about this. We have a change order regarding the tower that's located at Martinsdale on property that the county is leasing from the school. We need to make the access road bigger and wider to accommodate the county equipment and the county and the construction of the tower, as well as make it wider and longer for farm equipment as well. And this is a field that is farmed every year. And the change order is $5,218.75.
Understood. Is there any discussion or questions for Dawn? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I would move the change order with Motorola Solutions Inc. on the 911 communications project for $5,218.75.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Tracy?
McIntyre,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Thank you. Number 5. Consider change orders for additional shell space at Warren County Justice Center with possible action. A, Vanderpool Construction Inc. B, DDVI Inc. C, Core Structural Services.
On April 10th, the board met to consider doing the additional shell space within the Justice Center project. You approved to go forward with that. These are the official documents for the change orders to those contractors. So A, I would ask approval of the change order with Vanderpool Construction in the amount of $54,761 for the Justice Center project. And that would be backdated effective April 10th, 2020. And authorize the chair to sign.
We're doing them individually.
Well, I can speak them all, and then you can do them together, I believe. Approve the change order with DDVI Inc. for the Justice Center project in the amount of $112,307.67. And item C would be to approve the contract with Core Structural Services for this change order in the amount of $16,492.78.
Megan, would you give me the DDVI again? 112.
$112,307.67.
Thank you.
And so if you recall at our...
Can we take these all at once?
Yeah.
Tracy, are you okay with that, if they just do it all in one motion? Yep.
Perfect.
I would move the following 3 change orders for the additional shell space at the Warren County Justice Center. Vanderpool Construction Inc., $54,761. DDVI Inc., $112,307.67. And Core Structural Services, $16,492.78.
Second.
Any further discussion? See none. Tracy?
Schultz,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Thank you, Megan. Number 6, consider resolution approving half of the budgeted transfer for nutrition department in the amount of $80,000 with possible action.
We budget transfers to nutrition from the general fund each year. We usually do those in 2 halves. The nutrition fund, if you've looked at the budget reports, you'll see is in need of this transfer to make it through the rest of the year. So I am requesting the second half of the budgeted transfer in the amount of $80,000.
And Megan, when
I would move the resolution approving half of the budgeted transfer for the nutrition department in the amount of $80,000, which is the second one half.
Second.
any discussion? I just had one question. When, and this was for last fiscal year's,
Current fiscal year.
current fiscal year's second half. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Tracy.
Schultz,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Item number 7, consider resolution approving half of the budgeted transfer for wellness in the amount of $37,500 with possible action.
This is also a budgeted transfer. We generally do in 2 portions. This 37.5 will finish out the rest of the fiscal year for those wellness transfers for qualified individuals. So I request that the board approve the wellness transfer as budgeted, the second half $37,500.
I would move the resolution approving the second half of the budgeted transfer for wellness in the amount of $37,500.
Second.
Discussion? Tracy?
Schultz,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. Number 8, budget reports.
Within your packet, you have your budget reports. This is through the end of March, so we're 75% completed. We'll start with expenditures. For the most part, departments are on track, showing less than 75% of expenses at this time. We have a few, the auditor's office with election expenses and some furnishings, the sheriff's department with overtime and inmate care, and then we have the medical examiner and juvenile probation, who continue to be a sticky one to get a hold of, and how much is needed for those items. So with it, as we're talking about these expenses, I added to the agenda for item 9 to set a public hearing date for an additional amendment. The auditor's office, the special county election, I'm requesting that the board do an amendment of $8,700 to cover those expenses. That should bring the auditor's budget back in line. The sheriff's department, I'm requesting to do an amendment of $84,000, and that $84,000 is due to revenue that we received on a claim that was settled. And we received revenue in the amount of $84,000 against inmate medical expenses. I would ask to put that back into the sheriff's budget to bring him back in line for this year. Now, hopefully, he won't need it. The rest of the months, we might be able to pull it back together, but rather be safe than sorry, as opposed to going over budget on that. And again, with the medical examiner and the juvenile probation, both of those, I'm going to request some additional funds, because that service area 1, we could reappropriate within service area 1, but all of those budgets in service area 1 are running high or at their number, so there really isn't any space for me to reappropriate from another budget for those items. So I would, when we go to item 9, that's the reason I'm requesting an additional budget amendment date from the board. As far as comparing the current fiscal year to the last fiscal year, these have just not been, these have been 2 very different budgets. This whole year, this has been 2 very different budgets. There's a lot of different reasons why the different departments are not falling in line with what they had last year. All of them, I don't have any concerns about any of them. They're all very explainable as we've gone through most of the year, going through those items that are different. So those were expenses. Does anyone have any questions for me in regards to the expenses? Okay, I'll move on to revenues. Revenues, we would anticipate being at about 75% of revenues to date. We have a few of the budgets that are running under those numbers. City election income came in less than budgeted in the auditor's office. The treasurer's interest income is less than anticipated. She does have, I did check, and there are 3 more CDs coming due, so we'll see where we end up landing. The attorney's office, those are those fine fee thresholds. If you look at the clerk of court, revenue is at 200%. That's because the revenue went there as opposed to the attorney's office due to those changes. DCAT, the revenue we receive is based on expenses, nothing out of line there. The county engineer, the tax transfer is based on what we've collected, so that April transfer will include March taxes, which will bump that up into the range that it needs to be. Again, nutrition and wellness are under, but they're waiting on that second half transfer that the board just approved. And then the bond issuance for the capital projects, the 20.4 million will be received at the end of April. So none of the revenues are terribly concerning at this time. Are there any questions on the revenues? Fund balances, nothing out of line. Mental health is down 300,000, but it has been. We knew that because we sent that additional to the district. County attorney court fee is down. Again, that's because of that change. Secondary roads is down from previous year, and again, that has to do with that tax transfer. Because of the way we changed the transfer to be part non-tax and part tax. Recorder's record management, portion of that was paid out to pay for those recording of documents, so it should be down from what it was the previous year. And of course, the capital projects on the Justice Center, we've been paying out expenses, so it is less than, and in the bond proceeds than what we had before. Were there any concerns from the board on the fund balances?
Nope. Okay. Thank you, Megan. Item number 10, receive and file.
Oh, no, 9.
Oh, 9, sorry. Jumping ahead. Item number 9, set public hearing for FY20 budget amendment for May 19, 2020 at 6:05 p.m.
Yes, and that's my request, to have a second amendment for the budget to bring everything back in line. I'll do one last check through everything to make sure that we have everything ready before the end of the year. That would be the last available to amend that.
I would move we set a public hearing date for FY20 budget amendment for May 19th, 2020 at 6:05 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Tracy?
McIntyre,
Aye.
Scholl,
Aye.
DeCook,
Aye. Now item number 10. Receive and file reports. A, the recorder. B, general assistance. Do we have a motion to receive and file reports?
I would
I
make
would
the
move
motion
that-
to. Go ahead, Doug.
No, you go ahead, that's fine.
Okay. I would make a motion to receive and file the reports.
Second.
Tracy?
Scholl,
Aye.
McIntyre,
Aye.
DeCook.
Aye. All right. Now we're up to number 11, supervisors report. Supervisor Scholl.
Yes, I had one phone conference meeting with the Central Iowa Workforce Development Board, and everything is getting so delayed. We had deadlines we had to meet, but they've been extended, so we still haven't approved a 28E agreement, but we have time to do that. And then like the other two, we've had several meetings, that we listed the minutes to and had an additional one on the 14th. And then I have had a couple citizens issues. That would be my report.
Thank you. Supervisor McIntyre.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. And for mine, I will recount some of the things as stated, we had the special meetings above. I attended a wellness meeting, met with HR. I reviewed a survey that approximately half of our employees filled out, with an additional follow-up meeting. Had a Zoom meeting. It seems like everything's Zoom meetings these days, but I had a number of those, one of which was with the HERDA board, and now I see that we have another one scheduled for Thursday, but I'll let the board know that some serious funding came from the federal government, which will greatly help HERDA, because as you can imagine, those entities that provide rides for people that are really in need of rides, and some of them are cancer treatment folks and others that that's really their only means of transportation. But when people aren't riding the buses, or people are fearful and sick, revenue-wise, it's been rough sledding there. But I think we've got very good news that should be confirmed on Thursday, and it looks like HERDA's gonna be okay. Multiple communications with residents of the plaza and the engineer's office. I'm pleased to report that at least some items, especially from Mr. Bates's list, who maybe he's listening tonight, some of those items are being addressed as of today. Met with the Norwalk Ministerial Fund, the food pantry, discussed courthouse matters with DCI and Shive via conference calls. And then I'll end with a bit of a highlight, and that was sort of finalized today, but just so the public knows, I think it was the 14th, it was the 10th. The 10th of April, the board met and we finally reviewed some bids on the remaining shell space in the basement. And so that got approved, and you heard the numbers today, the change orders from Vanderpool, DDVI, and Core. I think it was 54, 112, and 16. I think that's about 187, 188 to capture that square footage down there. But more importantly, by doing that, the entirety of the basement under the court side of the Justice Center will also have a concrete pad foundation floor. And I distinctly remember when we were sort of discussing that, the merits of that issue a month or 2 months ago, one of the things that came up as a concern was, what about radon? What about air quality down there? And I guess I'm just proud to let everyone know that the concrete slab's going to greatly address those issues. And while it might not be something that we're going to see some immediate benefit of next year or the following year after it's complete, I'm just tickled to death that a future board will have that additional square footage in the basement. That's going to be just a chip shot to grow into when and if Warren County needs to. So well done. I commend my colleagues for their vote on that, and it looks like it's finalized at this point. So that is my report. Item number 12, public input. Is there anyone from the public who would like to share with us tonight?
I don't have anyone.
Seeing none, our next board meeting is May 5, 2020. That's our morning meeting, and that will be held at 9:30 in the morning. So May 5, 2020, 9:30 in the morning. Cinco de Mayo. Yes. Number 14, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Doug.
Second.
Tracy?
Scholl,
Aye.
McIntyre, DeCook.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good night. Be safe.